Alrighty, back to another part here. Where we left off is still where it was, I guess, before the last part started, or partway through the last part, and over to this side here. So we're getting close in here to being a full flat ground. Now that I'm getting closer and touching such a large flat area, I'm using a lot less pressure. If I do that, I might, if I slow my belt down a little bit too. It's a good thing to do. Touching a lot more surface area, a little less pressure. Kind of keep it on the belt a little longer and just keep doing my work instead of stopping and cooling it off. Right between a light and moderate pressure here. Well, approaching like a moderate. It's kind of hard to explain what my moderate pressure is, what you might think it is, but I'm not really pushing in, and it's not just letting it ride lightly, it's barely touching. Just a little bit, not too much. Enough where I can feel the abrasive kind of gripping in and still kind of sliding freely. Need to work a little more on this tip action here. You can see up here on, I got this zoomed in to see my work. I got to keep looking back here. I need to work on the tip here a little bit. Getting this a little chunky here. It's really flat, and I need to taper this down a little bit. And having that taper too will, your end tapers down good. I've seen some knife makers do ground knives like this, and they leave the tips thick because it's strong. But at the same time, even with a stiff metal, if you get it thinner, it's more flexible. So there's kind of like a fine line to what's actually kind of better. But if you have it tapering in, it'll still be pretty damn strong, and it's got a little flex to it. But I'm gonna have to make some knives here and do some destruction videos for you guys, just to show you what the A2 can handle and do. And really hard to show how sharp it gets, but I have all kinds of stuff where all kinds of different metals, all kinds of different sharpening techniques on knife blades. There's a big study that was done. I'll have to find the thing on it. They use an electron microscope, and you can really see down what a very knife edge looks like. Even some of the sharpest, like razor sharpest edges you've probably ever touched in your life. When you get down to, I don't know, like down to where, I forget if it's like a couple 100,000 or if it's like in the million magnification, but with an electron microscope, it just looks like this rounded off blob of metal fibers, and it's all like rounded off, and that's because it's so damn close. But it would just slice through anything without even thinking about it. I'm talking stuff extremely sharper than any brand new factory edge of any knife you ever bought. Something that is just degrees of sharpness beyond that. You magnify it low enough, it almost looks like this, but not flat on the end. It's kind of rounded and chunky and stuff. It's weird looking, but depends what metal you use. About the finest grain structures of very fine steels, about the finest grain structure you'll get in any steel is a 0.5 micron grain structure, and that happens to be what the grain structure size is of A2 tool steel. A2 tool steel, heat treated properly. I mean, you can have bigger on any knife, especially crappier steels. if it's not heat treated right, you will get grain growth. All my heat treating is done in induction furnaces that are digitally controlled. So I mean, if I want it 60 Rockwell, it's 60 Rock. That's 60 Rockwell is what I heat treat my knives at, and I double draw them. And I'm looking. There's a place about a half-hour drive from here that does cryogenic treatments. I'm looking to start getting my blades cryo treated. That adds a whole nother degree to the strength and stuff of the metal. But there's a lot of people that do shittier metals, and they do cryo treating the cryo it add more to a shittier metal, which they might not be using a shitty metal. Man, my language is awesome for YouTube. I'm kind of realizing that now, but they're not necessarily using a shitty metal. They're using a good metal, very good steel. I mean, even some of your crappier steels nowadays, if it's from a good supplier, it might not be a tool steel, but it's still an extremely high quality steel. There's no doubt about it. This is 1120 or 2011, 1120. That's about retarded. But it's 2011. We're leaps and bounds what old steel used to be, when they just used to take a bunch of black sand from a riverbank and shit like that, and incinerate it in a charcoal fire and burn carbon into it, and end up with a big lump of metal and breaking off chunks of it and start forging it and getting the impurities out. This stuff we have nowadays is ridiculous, but properly heat treated A2 has a half micron grain structure size. And someone that's not like familiar with that type of measurement, micron's actually metric. So if you're familiar with thousandths, you take a thousandths cut into 10, you have a 1/10,000th of an inch. So that'd be an inch cut into 10,000 pieces. 2.5 microns roughly is actually 2.54 microns to 1/10,000th of 1 inch. Just about damn near as small as you can imagine. You start getting too much smaller, you're getting into the size of atoms and what things are made out of. Just a little interesting fact I guess I could add to this is the average diameter, like how the overall, like this circle here was a red blood cell in a human. From across here, the diameter, from like there to there, the whole diameter, if that was I'm just trying to make a circle, guys, alright? So a red blood cell is round, okay, like that, circle. Measuring straight across is about 8 microns width. So the blood cells in your body, on average, are 8 microns. The grain structure of A2 tool steel is half of 1 micron. That's a very fine grain structure in a steel. Which means the sharpest you can get a piece of metal is down to the width of 1 grain of the metal, theoretically speaking. So if you use the absolute perfect sharpening, the perfect finest possible grit, the very finest edge you can possibly get on whatever particular metal or blade you're working on, the finest edge you could have is the width of the size of the grain structure, like the width of 1 grain of the steel. Therefore, A2 can get extremely sharp. Most edges, about the sharpest you get is about 1 micron width, or at least 1 micron average width. I'm gonna retract this side. I'm gonna touch this other side up where it's all rusty because I got this side a little further along than this side, so I'm gonna touch this side up a little more. I think I might be soon do to move on to finer grit as well. But not only does this have the grain structure to get extremely sharp, the alloy of it is just very tough. It's just extremely tough. It's for industrial machines that will stamp out chunks of metal all day long, day after day, in manufacturing. And it's an extremely advanced steel, and the alloys in it are just crazy. And when you take that, what it's designed to do in modern industry and production, and you make a knife's probably the most primitive tool humans have, starting from a piece of sharpened rock up till shit we have nowadays, like this knife made of A2 tool steel. But you take a primitive tool like this, like one of the first tools known to mankind, and make it out of the most modern day, toughest materials, you end up with, my opinion, whether it be me grinding the blade or somebody else, not saying my knives are better than this guy or that guy. There's a lot of awesome knife makers out there that make awesome designs, but you take a material as modern and tough as this and make what it originally started as a primitive tool, you end up with something pretty amazing of a tool to work with, using in your hands. And that's something I just really enjoy. And if I'm going to use a knife, I want it to be made of awesome steel. I carry I carry my little A2 knife every day in my one pocket for tiny tasks and little detailed things. Or if I'm going to pull it out in front of some sheeple that aren't so keen on big knives or concealed carry or anything like that, I'll pull out that little knife and sharpen a pencil or open a small package or something. I got a bigger cutting task or anything, or if I'm around friends or family or not in a weird public spot, I'll pull it out in public, not in a threatening manner, never, absolutely never. But if I got a bigger cutting task, I pull out my Raja 1, and it's a production knife. It's made of an extremely modern day steel. I'd have been happier if they used either a VG1 or a VG10, because that is an amazing stainless steel. They made these with AUS 8. That would be more of like my second favorite stainless, so at least it's not like a 420C or something. And you're getting like 154 CM and stuff. They're very nice stainless steels as well. Just my preference, my personal opinion is the VG series of stainless is like your best. But at the same point, they're not very stainless. So if you worked on some kind of like saltwater vessel, you might not want to have VG1 or VG10. You might not even want AUS 8. They're both prone to spotting, and they will actually rust. So you got to keep the blade clean and stuff. They're very minimal when it comes to stainless. As a matter of fact, A2 almost, if you keep it about as clean as you do with like an AUS 8 or a VG10, it's about that resistant. Not nearly, but damn near close. If you're not really cutting in, if you're cutting in acidic food and stuff, I'd wash it off pretty good. But even then, it's not much of a deal. This is fairly rough ground. I'm going to do a little bit more, but I see I'm almost 14 minutes here, so we'll go on to another part here.